Starting a business can be a daunting task, but if your spouse, significant other, or even family friends are involved, you might find someone to help share the entrepreneurial spirit with success on this episode of Tacoma Means Business.
I've worked in education and I've been an entrepreneur for decades. That's what I've been doing with my career for quite some time now. My wife has worked in the healthcare industry since college, so she's put in quite a few decades as well. And of course, every so often we have that same conversation, work. And then we fantasize a little bit about what it would be like to start a business together. What would we do? I like the idea, but I would say that if it's an idea you like and you want to implement, there are a few things that you might want to think about before you get started. One of them is, like with any business, make sure you have enough money. Having an emergency fund. And this is separate than the idea of running the business. As is always the case, you definitely need to separate your business accounts and your personal accounts. But if you're going to be working with your spouse, make certain that the two of you have an emergency fund, just in case. And then, of course, work on making that business cash flow positive as soon as possible. The other thing is that if you're going to be working together, then it's really hard to separate business from personal life. And in fact, being an entrepreneur, that's the case. Being an entrepreneur means that you're thinking about the company 7/24. Well, imagine that and now put it in the framework of you're doing this and so is your spouse, right? So it's a very important thing to try and figure out what your office hours are. When are you working together and when do you have your personal time? And along that thought, along that train of thought, one of the pieces of advice I would have is that make certain you have two different hobbies. Make certain that there's something that you can go to that's outside of the business, that's your own, that you can put personal time on. Another thing is define the roles. Have your sort of job descriptions for each person, knowing your personality types, knowing your strengths, and knowing who has the authority written down to make certain decisions. Now, that does not mean that you don't have shared authority. And in fact, there are certain things you can clarify and say, these are the decisions that we will make together and must be consensus. As soon as it's possible, get an office. Now, we talked earlier in one segment about home offices, and those are great. Well, then make certain there's a barrier that says, when I open and I walk into this door and walk into the space, I'm in the business. And when I walk out, I'm back home. What helps a little bit better is to have an office for your business that you go to and that you can entertain clients or whatever else that you're working on. The other thing is, I know that with a new starting business and there's a lot of pressure, having an office maybe not be something in your budget, which is why you want to try and do co-worker location, that sort of thing, a rented office space, or find your favorite coffee shop and spend your office hours there. I personally still like the idea of eventually someday going into business with my wife. On the other hand, I know that when I do, I will think about all of these things that we need to take care of so that it becomes an enjoyable growth experience.
For more ways on growing your business, check out Tacoma's Community and Economic Development Program at makeitTacoma.com.